Come on in, sit back and relax. You're listening to episode 211 of the WealthTech Today podcast. I'm your host, Craig Iskowitz, founder of Ezra Group Consulting, and this podcast features interviews, news, and analysis around the trends and best practices all about wealth management technology. Welcome to our November news review. I've got a lot of stories to cover, including a Y-Chart's proposals function feature, DocuPace launches an API developer portal, Fidelity's blocking screen scraping, Mint is shutting down, intentionally launching their advisor brand builder, and of course, updates on the WealthTech integration scores and the Iskowitz Ezra Group Advisor Tech map. But before I get started, I have a message for you executives at wealth management firms. Your tech debt is holding back your business growth. Your software platform is old and rusted and falling apart and needs an overhaul. Your disparate systems don't communicate with each other, and it's driving your operations staff and advisors crazy with manual processes and errors. So if you're in charge of tech or ops at a broker-dealer or RIA, you should run, not walk, to our website, EzraGroup.com, and fill out the Contact Us form on the homepage. Our experienced team can evaluate your current tech ecosystem, deliver targeted recommendations, optimize your existing systems and operations, or even run an RFP and help you implement a new software platform to take your firm to the next level. You can take advantage of our free consultation by going to EzraGroup.com. All right, now time for the housekeeping items. Please subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. Check out the Invest in Others charitable foundation at investinothers.org. All right, let's kick this thing off. Next story, Y-Charts launches proposals enhancement for advisor-client communications. So for a long time, RIAs that wanted to create proposals for prospective clients were forced to use pretty much a hodgepodge of investor analytics, reporting tools, Excel and PowerPoint, and lots of other manual efforts to stitch things together into a long PDF that they could give to clients as a proposal. And this usually included some form of risk tolerance questionnaire, maybe even some goals, often a current versus proposed. Here's your current investments, your current portfolio, but here's the much better proposed portfolio that we're going to put you into. Maybe some back testing of the models or asset allocation that the advisor was recommending, some financial planning statistics, and then their models. So that was oftentimes what was involved with proposals, and some automation became available, usually for enterprise platforms or through TAMPs who could deliver proposals for advisors. And over the years, more tools came around that offered different levels of automation for proposals. One of the early ones was Morningstar Advisor Workstation, which according to Morningstar has over 100,000 active users. Now, Advisor Workstation not only has proposals, but also investment analytics. That's a common theme that we see a lot of investment analytics tools adding proposal functionality because they seem to go together. You're doing your investment analytics, and then now let's build a proposal out of that, and having those linked together that you could put the model in or push the models from your investment analytics into the proposal is a pretty handy feature. So besides Morningstar Advisor Workstation, there's Hidden Levers, which was acquired by Orion. That's mainly known as stress testing, but I think more than 40% of their clients, according to the company, use their proposal gen feature. So it's a hidden part of the Hidden Levers application. Quanti is another investment analytics tool, which you can find on the Iskowitz Ezra Group Advice Tech map in the investment data / analytics category. And of course, another vendor that got into the proposal game was Nitrogen, formerly Riskalyze, when they added proposal generation a couple of years back, and they also added investment analytics. So they came at it from a different direction. Rather than starting with investment analytics and adding proposal, they started with risk tolerance, then added proposals and investment analytics. So you can come at this in a number of different ways. And then one of the oldest providers of proposal generation IPS tools is Advisory World. Now, Advisory World was acquired by LPL in 2018, but they were one of the earliest independent standalone providers of proposal generation technology that also supported, fully supported SMAs and UMA, at least SMAs in there, they're not necessarily UMA, SMAs, and had a full database of SMA providers. I mean, we were looking at them back in 2009. I remember doing some competitive analysis on proposal generation tools for SMAs. Now, if you look in the at the Keats's Ezra Group WealthTech map, you will see there's no longer a proposal generation category. That category went away a couple of months ago, where mostly due to a couple months ago, I think it was over the summer, mostly driven by nitrogen. Nitrogen coming out with their rebrand from risk class nitrogen and from risk assessment analytics to growth platform. So Michael and I felt that this was a turning point in this particular category, and that sales enablement was a more accurate description of what these tools did, because not all of them are proposal generation capable. There is, of course, Nitrogen, Advisory World, Cap Intel, and Equisoft Analyze are all pure, or rather all have strong proposal generation features. There's a couple, if you look in the category, there's a couple other ones that are mainly only around retirement plans. So I'm not going to talk about those. This is talking about wealth and advisory plans. Now, Virgil is another company that doesn't do proposals yet, but I know they are building some proposal functionality. They're primarily around document scanning and statements of clients that then are used for the proposal, often for the current versus proposed comparisons. Now, that leads us to not only standalones, but the all-in-one platforms. There's a number of all-in-one platforms that have proposal generation built in, such as Orion. Orion's capability is called Proposals, and it's got proposal generation functionality. And I know Black Diamond, owned by Advent SS&C, they've got not necessarily not a standalone tool, but something in the SS&C catalog called Rendezvous, which is a prop gen tool that's integrated with Black Diamond. That brings us all back to the story at hand, which is YCharts, an investment data analytics application platform that started out as fundamental charting and then added capabilities around building portfolios. And once they did that, it seemed like a logical next step to be able to build proposals from those portfolios, and they have done that. So their feature is also called Proposals, which is a little confusing because Orion's got Orion Proposals, and now YCharts has YCharts Proposals. So everyone's using just the synonymous name. The proposals will allow users to position investment recommendations, and also one of the key differentiators for YCharts proposal functions is being able to attach talking points to your proposal. So you can explain to your prospective clients why you're putting them into certain asset allocations or certain portfolios. Now, so they believe this custom commentary, which is a unique feature. I don't know if there's anyone else that's doing that specifically. Of course, you can always insert a page into a proposal that explains your strategy, but that's a separate thing. This is more built into the functionality. So you can highlight particular metrics or statistics, performance expectations, holding allocations, yields, fees, and more. So we like this. There's always more room to expand on client communications, and more vendors are realizing that advisors need new ways to communicate with clients, connect with them, build a relationship. So why not start from the very first time you interact with your prospective client? It's the proposal. So giving them a good understanding of your firm's methodology and your investment strategy can only be a good thing for prospective clients to see. So they've also got a drag and drop design tool for the proposal report, which a lot of other vendors have as well. You can move the pages around, drag them, drop them, add ones. You can even import, like as I said, PDFs from other applications into your longer form PDF proposal. So we're happy to see this from YCharts, especially because one of our one of our core ways of thinking about an advisor tech stack or an RIA tech stack or a broker-dealer tech stack is minimize the number of vendors if you can. All things being equal, it's better to have fewer vendors than more vendors, just for some of the obvious reasons. vendor management, multiple contracts. When something goes wrong, if they're integrated systems, you may not know who to call. So if you can have one application like YCharts for your investment data analytics, fundamental analysis, charting, and also use them for proposal generation, just one less tool in your toolbox that does one more thing, more like a Swiss Army knife, easier to train your advisors and other staff on it. And it's going to be a little bit better for you in the long run, in our opinion. If you want to find out more about YCharts proposals, go to ycharts.com. Our next story, DocuPace launches an API developer portal to boost innovations and collaborations. At Ezra Group, we found, in general, there's 4 significant barriers in the way of growth and scale for wealth management firms and RIAs specifically. Number 1 is a lack of automation in client onboarding. 2 is a lack of integration between critical systems. 3 is a lack of digital experience for advisors and clients. And 4 is a lack of coordination across the back office, which results in manual processes sort of creeping into your daily work until, before you know it, half the business is running on Excel. So one of the companies that has taken advantage of that to build a very nice market share for themselves is DocuPace. And they are one of the leading providers of enterprise document management solutions, where they started their business in document management, archiving, and then launched their own new account opening process and workflow, what they call an orchestration engine. And that became very popular. These types of orchestration engines are robust workflow tools that power new account opening with straight-through processing, integrate to many different systems such as custodians, CRMs, and other custodian CRMs and portfolio management systems. They connect to multiple downstream data subscribers, delivering files into document management platforms for archiving and delivery, delivering through different e-signature platforms to clients, also internal processes for compliance and data validation. They're really very full-featured applications. Now, DocuPace was primarily in the broker-dealer space until last year when they launched their RIA Productivity Suite, which is basically their entire platform, which I just talked about, but focused on the RIA market. They had also started acquiring firms. Since they themselves were acquired by PE firm FTV Capital in 2020, they acquired a company called Giacomo, which provided post-trade account surveillance and compliance tools, data integrations, and advisor compensation systems. That's 2021. Also in 2021, they acquired a company many of us know called Precise FP, which was one of the leading providers of data gathering client engagement solutions. So those two go well with their RIA Productivity Suite. Now, that takes us to the DocuPace API Developer Portal. And as you know, if you listen to this podcast, Ezra Group has the WealthTech Integration Score. We are very big into integrations. We love APIs, and we love firms doing more to make their APIs more transparent and more accessible, and providing better support for developers. Because just because you have APIs, if you have no support for developers, they're not going to be able to use them very well or efficiently. What we like about developer portals, and it's one of the requirements we have for getting a higher score in the WealthTech Integration Score, you must have a developer portal. And I have to say that DocuPace really nailed it when it comes to what needs to be in the portal. Let me just go through a list of what they've got. Number 1, documentation. You can have all the code in the world, but if it's not documented well, if there aren't code examples and tutorials, like the next thing, so comprehensive documentation, tutorials and examples. If it's not documented, how it works, usage instructions, parameters, authentication methods, it's going to be very difficult to use your APIs. If you don't have tutorials and examples, no one wants to build code from scratch when it's just simple stuff I can copy paste. If you can give developers copy paste things for very common capabilities, you're really going to kick off the ability to use your APIs efficiently and effectively in different applications. You want to be able to test. You want a testing environment, a sandbox where you can test your applications against the company's live APIs. in the developer portal, which DocuPace have. Besides examples, you want interactive code samples where you can see things live online and have more resources for implementing best practices for different capabilities. You want a robust environment, and you want some sort of community collaboration where you maybe post questions, share insights, exchange ideas with other people who are using the same tools. One thing we found in the Ezra Group with the WealthTech integration score research that we did, among the over 430 applications on the Keats's Ezra Group AdvisorTech map and in our database, a full 38% have no integrations at all. So we really encourage firms to build out their integrations, launch APIs, make it easier for your clients and also partners to build to your applications and get access to your systems. If you want to find out more about DocuPace's API portal, you can go to docupace.com/developer-resources. This next story is really interesting to me. Fidelity blocks screen scraping and Mint to shut down. A dual story. Why is this interesting? I'm kind of a student of the history of data aggregation. Being in the industry so long, one of the areas I find interesting is how data aggregation works, the importance of data aggregation, how different vendors operate. So we've done a lot of deep dives at Ezra Group on data aggregation and data aggregation research. So when I see a story like this come up, I just want to dive right in. So I'm not going to make this too long, but I've got a lot of background information on this, which I think is interesting. So, Mint shutting down is the end of an era. Mint, when it was founded in 2006, was really the first consumer-facing data aggregation tool, and also the first to provide a consolidated view of a client's financial life, way earlier than we in the industry had this data, both liabilities and assets. There's still a lot of advisors who aren't aware of their clients' liabilities, but with Mint, you could see all your credit cards, auto loans, mortgages, as well as investment accounts and cash accounts and such. So I started using Mint very early. I was one of those sort of nerdy people that used Quicken for many years for my budgeting. And when Mint came along and it was free and it actually worked a lot better, of course, I stopped paying into it for Quicken, whatever it was, $30 a year, $40 a year, and switched to Mint. Now, of course, how they accessed the data was really the only way they could, which was called screen scraping. And the reason why was there were no data feeds. There were no ways to get this data from financial institutions back in the day, back in 2006. APIs were in their infancy back then. With firms, with Salesforce being the first cloud provider, firms like eBay and others were pioneers in APIs, but it certainly wasn't mainstream. So screen scraping was really the only way, and that was really getting what amounted to is getting the credentials from the client and pretending to log in or logging in automatically through code and then pulling the data off the screen. So there's 4 problems really with screen scraping and why, while it worked for a while, it's really not a good long-term solution. Requires every user to hand over their authentication information to a third party, which inherently isn't safe, no matter how safe that third party might be. When I give Mint the information, I'm trusting that Mint's going to hold on to the username and passwords that I'm giving it, that it's not going to be grabbed by a man-in-the-middle attack, or they're not going to have other sorts of breaches that could possibly expose my login information. These screen scrapers are hitting these financial institution websites, not just once every so often like a user would. If I log into my Amex card once a week to check, that's one login. But when you go to a screen scraper, or when you go to a website like an aggregator, like a Mint or Personal Capital, and they're using screen scraping, they may be updating your data every day, even though you're not logging in. So if they have millions of users, they're sending out millions of requests every day to keep their data accurate, which is overwhelming and overloading the websites of all these financial institutions. And they're certainly not happy about that. It costs time and money. It's expensive to do all that. Also, it's a bad customer experience. And if you're an advisor and you've done any work with any of the early data aggregators that use screen scraping, you've heard the complaints from clients that it's broken, it stopped working. And it happens all the time because any changes to the institution's website will break the connection, because when you're screen scraping, you're expecting the data to appear in a certain part of the screen. So if the financial institution changes their screen layout, that's going to break your data pull. Also, if there is a two-factor authentication or clients are forced to change their passwords, that also breaks the authentication. It's a huge problem on the REA side. So we're all looking for an option to get away from screen scraping. Now, around 2010, I would say, so what APIs and data feeds started becoming more available, more readily available, and that really drastically changed the landscape, providing access to consumer data based on contractual agreements between the aggregators and the financial institutions, rather than, hey, we're just going to scrape your screens and take the data and do whatever we want with it. There's been a number of industry associations that cropped up to try to solve this problem. One's called the Clearinghouse, which is a banking association and payments company owned by a consortium of large banks. Of course, they don't like data sharing that involves screen scraping. And they make a good point. If I'm logging onto Mint, Personal Capital, or Quicken, or other aggregators, they don't want me giving their login information to anybody, but they're asking me as a consumer to give other firms login information. So a bit of a hypocrisy there. Another industry association, nonprofit association that launched, which was very successful, is called the Financial Data Exchange, or FDX. And that's become the de facto standard for API access for interoperable open banking. I believe the stats show as of October 2023, 65 million consumers are accessing their data through third parties, or whatever their tools are, that use the FDX API standard. So it's become very popular. And the FDX is another industry consortium. There's all the big banks, Bank of America, Citi, Capital One, firms like Fidelity, JP Morgan, PNC, plus a lot of the vendors are also on the board of directors, Investment Yodlee, Finicity, MX, Plaid. It's really the way to go when it comes to API access for data. Now, FDX put out a survey in 2021 that found over 12 million US consumers have transitioned from screen scraping to a version of their FDX API. I'm sure 2 years later, that's gone up quite a bit. And between 65 and 85 million consumers are still providing data through shared login credentials, which we don't like. And outside of North America, a lot of governments have led the march towards API-based data access, or like the EU's PSD2 regulation, helped push it over in Europe. This particular story, which is Fidelity blocking screen scraping and data aggregators, isn't the first major vendor or major custodian to do this. This has been going on for a number of years. 2020 was a big year for institutions to block screen scrapers. Yodlee, Investment Yodlee and Charles Schwab signed an agreement in April 2020 to avoid Yodlee screen scraping Schwab. So Schwab clients got a better user experience, more reliable, didn't break as much. They got access to more data because Schwab could offer more information. And that wasn't the first agreement that Yodlee even closed in 2020. I think they did 2 or 3 others. One was Citibank, one JP Morgan signed agreement. So Yodlee was working very hard, at least when I spoke to them. They've always been very strong about their feelings that they're trying to move away from screen scraping towards data feeds for all of their data. I'm not sure what the percentage is, but it's pretty high. Also in 2020, JP Morgan made moves to block fintechs from screen scraping. Capital One cut off access to aggregators. And in 2021, Wells Fargo announced plans to transition 99% of current third-party financial app screen scraping to API-based data exchange, which I believe is the FDX standard. So clearly a trend, a lot of firms moving in this direction to get rid of screen scraping. So Fidelity is sort of a little bit late to the game that they are now announcing. And now they announced they're going to stop screen scraping about 9 months ago. Now what they're doing, interestingly, is not using FDX, but pushing everyone to use a vendor called Akoya, A-K-O-Y-A, which coincidentally came out of Fidelity Investments in 2018. Either out of their incubator or they spun it off into an independent company to do this data aggregation and consolidation. And they managed to get 11 other North American banks to invest in the venture. So now it's another of these industry consortiums, like Zelle. It's an industry-based response to external pressures. And it's become very successful because they're forcing you to use it. They've signed deals. Akoya has signed deals with FIS, Intuit, Fiserv, Morningstar, which has the Bile Accounts data aggregation platform, as well as Envestnet, Yodlee. Now, interestingly, Plaid, which is one of the biggest providers of before screen scraping and now data connectivity to financial institutions, they're not using Akoya. Now, they claim that 75% of their data aggregation goes directly through API feeds, but they've chosen not to integrate with Akoya at this time. So that creates a bit of a dichotomy for consumers. You're using Plaid, but you're not going to be able to get access to your Fidelity data. So that would affect me as an example. I've got accounts at Fidelity. I wouldn't be able to see them through any data aggregation tools that rely on Plaid for connectivity. They're not the only ones that are pushing back on Akoya. Data ag vendors MX and Trustly are also not accepting this feed because they're concerned that Akoya has too much power. I can't say whether it's true or not, but they certainly feel that way. But this is, and this is an issue we see in a lot of different areas in wealth management, in that it's not in everyone's interest to cooperate, whether it's trading models or doing data aggregation or setting trades. There's always some firms that are going to opt out because they don't see it as beneficial to them to cooperate with their competitors. Now, so we talked about Plaid. So there's a lot of other issues around this that we're going to see when it comes to data aggregation and how it plays out. And whether you're on a Fidelity or you're on other custodians, or you've got multiple bank accounts, how you bring that in and how you view your data is going to be another battle. Whether you're using the consumer tools or you're using a tool provided by your advisor, there's always going to be issues when you've got these different industry consortiums fighting, and some firms in and some firms out. Another part of the story is Mint shutting down, which I'm sad about because I was a big Mint user. Now, Intuit, interestingly, there was some some theories that they were using Mint as basically an onboarding tool to get users into the other products, which I'm sure seems like a good idea. Seems like it was successful. But now they're shutting it down. They're trying to push users over towards Credit Karma. Excuse me. And I don't see that as really a good solution as a Mint user. Credit Karma is really just a tool to check your credit score and then sell you credit cards and loans, well, which is fine. That's what they're doing. I'm not into that, but that's what they want. But it's not a good solution if you're looking for a personal financial management tool. My advisor offers eMoney, which is a great product through the dashboard, so you can do your aggregation there. eMoney has built their own data aggregation. If your advisor is MoneyGuide Pro, you can use that. MoneyGuide Pro, of course, uses Yodlee by default, since they're both owned by Envestnet. Now, personal financial management goes way back to 1983 when Intuit was founded by Scott Cook and the Quicken app, which I loved for many years and used for many years. The firms called other applications around that time in the 80s were Managing Your Money from Andrew Tobias. That was a groundbreaking application, and it all started a real interesting market for these personal financial management tools for a subset of consumers that were really focused on budgeting, a little bit anal retentive, I have to admit. A lot of people don't want to get into this much detail, but there's certainly a group of consumers that are interested in this. I also use Personal Capital, which I found to be a great product and for free on their dashboard, although I think it's gone downhill a bit since it was acquired by Empower. Specifically, when you type personalcapital.com, it redirects you to empower.com, which then redirects you back to Personal Capital's URL when you log in. So it's a little kludgy there. And the dashboard's broken, the accounts aren't updating, so I stopped using the Empower /Personal Capital dashboard. don't use Credit Karma. NerdWallet, another option. There's still Quicken is still out there. Quicken Deluxe for $47 a year. So there's still options out there. One of the things we've been looking at and trying to find more of, and I think is going to be an area that's going to impact the wealth management space, is aggregators of aggregators. Well, of course, we all know some of the biggest aggregators: Yodlee, Plaid/Quovo, eMoney, Finicity, and so forth in the RIA space. Firms like Wealth Access as well, doing data aggregation, but other firms like there's another vendor that just came out with Blueleaf, just came out with a product called Aggregator of Aggregators, which I had John Prendergast, the CEO, on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, so you can take a listen to that. And I think there's those types of tools where you can take multiple aggregators and fill in the gaps, because every aggregator is a little bit different. They've got a little bit different map of institutions. They have some strengths and weaknesses in what data they provide. So I believe that an aggregator of aggregators approach will be the future for most wealth management firms when they want to provide these types of data tools both to advisors and clients. And the next story is intentionally launches advisor brand builder marketing technology platform. Intentionally was founded by CEO Kelly Waldrick and industry branding veteran Melissa Thomas. And they've launched a new platform, which is unusual for a marketing firm to do that. So this is a software platform called Advisor Brand Builder. And this, I got a demo of this yesterday. I found it to be refreshingly innovative, very new. There's nothing like it that I've seen on the market. What it does is walks you through all the steps you need as an advisor. It's focused on the advisor business, obviously, in building out your brand. And it, since I've done my own brand building for Ezra Group a number of times, I really related to a lot of the questions. Of course, some of the specific things for advisors don't relate to us as consultants, but walking through the process of how you come up with your brand and all the different components that are required, I think it was a very interesting way to do it. Some parts of it were intuitive, some parts need a little bit of work, but I think it's a great first start. And it walks you through, it's from the advisor point of view. If you're a solo advisor or you're running an advisory firm, you're the head of marketing, or you need some help with that, it walks you through all the questions, such as what your logo should be like, what your the culture of your what message do you want to send with your marketing? Do you want to say, well, hey, we're traditional, or we're modern, or we're a little bit playful, or we're a little more light in the way we operate? So you can specify that, and it'll adjust the branding to that style. And I thought some of the way it shows different color palettes. So there's different groups of color palettes. You can say which one do you like? Do you like more earth tones? Like more pastels? Like more in sort of little bolder colors? So you can pick from those. You can pick different images, and all the images are licensed from different image services, and it gives you different groups of images in the different categories that you've selected. If you selected modern, you're going to get images that are more modern. If you chose traditional, you're going to get images that are more traditional. It also has iconography that would appear on the website and other layouts. But one part I thought was very interesting, where it asks for messaging. So that's going to be a little bit more complicated for advisors to think about. They really need to spend some time thinking, what's your tagline? What's some of your services? And that's not something that just rolls off the top of your head. You have to really think about it a bit. So I think that's an area where their team can provide feedback. Now, this is not a completely automated tool. There is a team behind it. It's more of an onboarding tool. So it's onboarding for marketing, which is a unique experience. So just like onboarding for advisors, onboarding for portfolio management, here you have onboarding for marketing. So I think there's a lot of ways this can be used, especially for enterprise broker-dealers, enterprise RIAs that are bringing on a lot of advisors or buying up teams, and they want to keep those teams independent, or at least with their own branding. They could use this as an intake tool to gather all the information about the brand. Things like there's room for putting, well, what are my differentiators? What inspired you to become an advisor? A lot of good background information about the advisory firm that then either, if I'm a broker dealer, I can take that to understand better about the firm that we've acquired, or if I am the marketing team, I can better understand what makes that team tick and how can I adjust the brand to match that. What's your value prop? And then once you go through all those questions and fill out all that text and you answer all the options, the system generates the foundational brand assets, simple things like business card and stationery, but also branded banners for Twitter profiles, LinkedIn profiles, Facebook profiles, and other social media graphics, which I have to tell you is not easy to build. Way back when, before Ezra Group grew a lot and we could hire marketing people, I was doing that myself. And I remember trying to figure out, well, how big is the Twitter logo or the Twitter profile image supposed to be, the background, and how many pixels is it, and what tool am I using to measure pixels? I don't have Adobe Illustrator. So this kind of tool could be really helpful to a marketing person. If you're a one-man band marketing person at an RIA and you need to be able to generate brand assets quickly and update them, see, want to change the colors a bit, tweak the logo a bit, you just run it through the system and it'll regenerate everything for you on the fly, which is very cool. I'm looking forward to some more AI tools. I know this is the first version, and Kelly said they're building a lot of AI into this, which I think could be very helpful, especially for a standalone version, or to give advice to the advisor while they're filling the form out. Things like asking them some questions about differentiation that they don't really understand. A lot of advisors maybe don't know what the differentiation is. So if a tool, rather than just giving an empty box, give me some questions that say, hey, here's some things that other advisors use to differentiate. Which ones might you use? Or maybe review the text in real time and give some feedback, like if someone's looking over your shoulder and say, oh, that's probably a great idea. Oh, you should expand more on this. I think the AI would be perfect. The generative AI tools would be perfect for that kind of feedback. The part of this, there's two versions of this. One is going to be a self-directed, and one is going to be a consultative, where there's people walking you through it. So that'll provide a lot of benefits for people. And again, this is something that I think you should take a look at, even if you already got a logo and you've already got your brand. It's an interesting journey, and kind of reminds you of a lot of things maybe you didn't think about when you were building your brand, or maybe gives you some innovative ideas for how to adjust your brand going forward. Or either way, you should definitely give them a call, Kelly and Melissa, over at intentional.ly. So that is spelled intentional, or intention, sorry, intention.ly, intention.ly. All right, we've come to my favorite part of the news. We're talking about the WealthTech map that Michael Kitces and I partner on, which you can find on kitces.com anytime. And I'm going to go through the new applications that were added this month. We have 7 applications. I'm just going to do a quick review of each, just a quick 2 seconds on each one here. The first one that we added new vendors called Practice Intel. The website is PracIntel, just PracIntel.com. And they are a platform that helps advisors gather client feedback. So that goes under the client feedback category, which I believe is in digital marketing. Just double check that before someone fact checks me. In digital marketing, client engagement, we've got it goes to client data gathering. Or client feedback, right? So under client engagement category of the new map, if you see the new organization in October, we redesigned the map. Of course, Michael's team did most of the work there. Where you've got different color coded, and under client engagement, you've got client meeting support, client data gathering, and client feedback, which is where Practice Intel is going to go. Let's see. Then the next one that we're adding is called My Name Flow. And the website is just like it's spelled, mynameflow.com. And that is an automated marketing platform that helps advisors find lost prospects and drive engagement to grow sales. So it's an automated marketing platform it will be going under the digital marketing category of the WealthTech map. We're seeing more of these types of tools. I believe that in our industry, at least, Nitrogen, formerly Riskalyze, sort of blazed the trail for growth platforms and sales enablement tools. So this is another something similar, although it's going into the digital marketing category, called mynameflow.com. Next application is Forms Logic. You can find them at formslogic.com, FORMS logic.com. And they are a workflow solution, digital onboarding, paperless and electronic document management, and they're going into the workflow support category. They've been around for a while. They were founded in 2015. They fly a bit under the radar. They're mostly in the enterprise space, doing data storage. They support compliance for business processing. They link to CRMs. A very interesting product. You can check them out at formslogic.com. What this application, when it came into our queue for this month with Michael and I, it sparked interesting discussion. It's a little bit of inside baseball as to what's the difference between workflow processing or workflow support category, the digital onboarding category, the document management category, and the forms management category, because they all have workflow in them. Right? If you're doing an onboarding, you've got to have workflow. If you're doing document management, you got to have workflow. If you're doing forms processing, there's got to be workflow. So Michael and I had a bit of a discussion about the differences between them, and we didn't come to any agreement, but we did agree to put Forms Logic into workflow support, even though the word forms is in the name, so maybe they should go into forms management. But from what I know about them, they're better in the workflow category. But you may see some shakeup there between those categories, or at least we're going to come up with some better guidelines when an application goes into one of those or the other. Next up is Hadrius. Hadrius, HADRIUS.com. They are a compliance solution, claimed to be powered by AI. I'm always skeptical of that, so I'm going to be getting a demo of Hadrius to drill down to see, is it really AI driven? Is it really using AI in the background? They do communications review, archiving, marketing review and archiving, trade monitoring, task management, attestations, and disclosures. Hadrius.com for compliance. You'll see them in the compliance category. Next new application being added to the WealthTech map that Michael Keats and I work on is paraplanner.ai, PARAPLANNER.ai. They claim you can save 10 hours a week using their delegation tools, where you can delegate admin and planning tasks to their technology. They're going into the sales enablement categories because they're all about helping firms to grow, growth tools, growth platform. They offer admin assistance at $35 an hour and paraplanning at $50 an hour that you can get through their application, paraplanner.ai. Number 6 on the list, Mastro.com, M-A-S-T-T, 2 T's, R-O.com, and they are data aggregation, account aggregation. Their website, from what I've seen, I saw a demo a while back, that they are really on the higher end, higher net worth, ultra high net worth, client reporting, data gathering, data consolidation. They focus a lot on alternative investments, illiquid assets. So it's a bit of a niche, but it is going to the account aggregation category, and you can find it at Mastro with 2 T's.com. And finally up, we've got Orion Compliance. They've launched their compliance, I believe, has always been available as a standalone application. And I believe our new rule on the map is if you have an application that you sell standalone, it's got separate pricing, then even though it integrates with other parts of your business, we will put it on the map. So Orion Compliance is offered standalone. You can buy it separately. You can find it at orion.com, and we are adding it to the map. So that's really the update for the map. You'll see a new one. This is now the end of November. That's the November map changes. So if you go to keatsis.com and look up the latest fintech news, scroll to the bottom, and you can download the latest WealthTech map. All right. You've reached the end of another episode of the WealthTech Today podcast. Thanks for listening. Please go to our website, ezragroup.com. Scroll to the bottom of the homepage and sign up for our newsletter. Once a month, you'll receive an email chock full of wealth management news, information, updates. You will not be disappointed. Thanks again for listening, and talk to you all again next time.